Hi, I'm k.choi. Welcome to my channel. I'm experimenting with my lighting here. It is 8 p.m. so there's no natural light right now. I've never filmed at night before and I don't have any type of professional lighting. I'm just using like this floor lamp. Whoa. It's very bright. So hopefully this works because I just felt like filming this video right now. I've mentioned in previous videos that I've been really getting into booktube and it's inspired me to read more this year. This year my goal is to read 18 books simply because it's 2018. I know to some people 18 might seem like nothing and to some people it might seem like a lot. There's a huge range, but I just want to focus on reading for fun. So I wanted to share the books that I read in January as well as the ones that I am currently reading / plan on reading in February. The first book I actually read in December, not January, but it was during the last few days of December, and that is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And Brave New World is a dystopian novel. It's set in London in the year 2540. And in this book, science has developed to a point where humans are cultivated, basically, and they are conditioned to fit into certain castes of society. So they use a combination of genetic technology and social conditioning to create humans that are alphas, betas, so on and so forth. I won't go too much into the plot, but you meet some characters who don't quite fit the mold, who challenge this society or struggle with it, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. I actually had Brave New World on my bookshelf for years and years, but I just never got around to reading it, and I decided to pick it up kind of on a whim, and I'm really glad I did. And if you're looking for a science fiction or dystopian type of novel to read that I highly recommend, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it is science fiction, but I also feel like it's pretty realistic, or that society could potentially go in that direction, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. Also, there's a lot of clever wordplay in it, which added to my enjoyment. Book number 2 is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, and I had only read one book of John Green's prior to reading this one, and that was The Fault in Our Stars. I decided to pick this one up because the premise was really interesting to me. So it's about this teenage girl named Asa who suffers from anxiety and anxiety-related disorders. I don't think it ever explicitly says what she is struggling with, but she has OCD and hypochondria tendencies. The thing I like about this book is that it's not just centered on her anxiety and other mental illnesses, but there is another plot going on. She is trying to solve this mystery of a man who has disappeared, and I won't go too much into it, but you follow her along as she tries to figure this out. And as she is trying to put these pieces together and deal with being a teenager and dealing with her anxiety, you get to go inside her mind and see the way her thought process works. And not just personally, but from reading and listening to other reviews of the book, I feel like John Green did a great job of illustrating a realistic portrait of anxiety and other related mental illnesses. I gave it 5 out of 5. I could really relate to some of the thought spirals that Asa gets into because I am a constant worrier and just always thinking a million miles a minute, so it was amazing to see something so accurate represented in this book. Book number 3 I actually have with me, and that is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And this is a post-apocalyptic story where this pandemic takes over the world. It's a flu that just wipes out pretty much everybody on the planet. The story is told from 3 different time periods, so right before the pandemic takes over, right after or during, and then 20 to 25 years later, and they're from different perspectives that end up weaving together somehow by the end of the book. I tend to really like books and movies that have different perspectives and then piece them together to tell the story. So I gave this one a 5 out of 5 as well. I know it seems like it's very generous, but I think I just had a really good reading month. Like I said, it was such a page turner and a very unique story. The next and last book that I have fully read in January is Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. This is, as it says on the cover, a memoir of family and culture in crisis. J.D. Vance grew up in the Appalachian region of the United States. It's otherwise known as the place where hillbillies are from, and he just tells his story. He explains his culture, he explains the opportunities that he didn't have because of his upbringing, talks about life events that illustrate his family values. His is a pretty big success story because he grew up in poverty, but he ended up attending Yale Law School, and I think now he's actually planning to run for office in Ohio. This was a book that I read with two of my friends. We decided to start a little book club so that we could keep each other accountable and read a new book every month. And we chose this one because it's meant to be a book that could provide a lot of context and background regarding the Trump administration and the election from 2016. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. I thought that it was a very captivating memoir, and I learned a lot about a culture that is in the States but so different from the way I was brought up. Not the way I was brought up, but just the circumstances that I was born into. But the interesting thing is that the way he was brought up, some of the family values are very familiar to me. So it's interesting to see those connections between me and somebody who might seem so different from me on the outside or on paper. The reason I didn't give this a higher rating is that I felt like it was just that. It was a memoir, and it could, show certain connections between different groups of people that you might not have been aware of before. But in terms of relating it to policy or anything like that, I felt like it could have done more, or I was just expecting more from it. Now we're going to go into the books that I am currently reading. So first is The Sun and Her Flowers. I am about halfway through this book, and it's a book of poetry, the second book of poetry from Rupi Kaur. This one has 5 sections, which are called Wilting, Falling, Rooting, Rising, and Blooming. So you can just tell from those words that the book as a whole is going to be a journey of pain and suffering to strength and rejuvenation. I like it so far. If you haven't heard of Rupi Kaur, I highly recommend you check out her Instagram first. She posts some of her work on there, and you can get a feel for her style. There are illustrations with the poems, and the reason I like her poetry is that it's just so simple but carries so much emotion. The other book that I'm currently reading is Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly and David Kelly. I'm just one chapter into this one, but it is about unleashing the creative potential within us all, as it says on the cover. So it talks about how people often think that creativity is something that you're just born with, and if you're not a creative type, then that's just it. You can't really be creative. But what this book is getting at is that everybody has creativity in them. It's just about unlocking it and finding the confidence to tap into it and use it. So far, the book has talked about a couple of examples of this creative confidence and finding it in unexpected places. So I imagine the rest of the book is going to be filled with more stories and anecdotes that will be helpful to unlock that creativity. The next and last book on this list I haven't started reading yet. It is the book that my friends and I are reading for February for our book club, and it is Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. I don't know too much about this book, but it's historical fiction. It's about 4 generations of an immigrant family from Korea. I believe it takes place in Korea, but there is some interaction with a character or characters from Japan. It says on the back, richly told and profoundly moving, Pachinko is a story of love, sacrifice, ambition, and loyalty. I think it's going to be a sad read and very heavy and epic, so I'll let you know what I think about this one. So those are the books that I read in January, one of them technically in December, and the books that I am currently reading now and will be reading into February. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what books you're currently reading right now, or the ones that are on your list, because I'm always looking for recommendations. If you want to see more book-related videos from me, then hit the like button or comment to let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Caught every star in the midnight sky. Caught every star in the midnight sky.